Fast X is out in theaters now, and this is going to be my spoiler review for Fast and Furious 10. If you are a massive, massive Fast and Furious fan, and these movies are like your religion, and you don't want to be spoiled by anything in this movie, I would suggest you get in your car and drive somewhere now and come back in about like 20 minutes or so, because this is going to be a spoiler filled review for Fast and Furious 10. I don't even have to do a spoiler review for a Fast and Furious movie, but there are some things I want to talk about in this movie that I hinted at in my spoiler free review that I just couldn't talk about. I'm not going to break it up into sections like I do with my other spoiler reviews. For a Fast and Furious movie to do a spoiler review for a Fast and Furious movie, I don't think that's very effective. It doesn't make too much sense to me, so let's just get right into some things about Fast and Furious 10 or Fast X. So in my spoiler review, I said something along the lines of this series just keeps doing things at the end where I just kept going, I don't believe it. Fast and Furious has like these weird tendencies. It has this track record of just retconning stuff. For instance, there are certain events in this movie that tie into previous movies. Dante Reyes, the main villain played by Momoa, is actually the son of Hernan Reyes, the man who Ryan and Toretto robbed in Fast Five, and they were driving that safe all the way through Rio de Janeiro, and they got away with the money. And now Dante is coming after Toretto because he wants his money back, and his father is dead. But we find out that he's not there to avenge his father. I'll get into that more in a minute. He's there to collect the money and just get revenge on Dom. This is where I get lost with the Fast and Furious continuity sometimes, because apparently Dante was there for the events of 5, but we never saw him. It's kind of like that whole thing from F9 where, oh yeah, hey, Toretto's got this brother that we've never heard of for 8 movies. Here he is. He's played by John Cena. When Fast and Furious does stuff like that, it loses me a little bit. And I know that saying that is like, well, it's a Fast and Furious movie. You're not supposed to take it all that seriously. I get that. But that's just a thing I've always noticed with Fast and Furious. Another thing I've always noticed that's always bothered me is the fact that these characters are superheroes. Because, look, the whole ending of this movie is essentially like the fucking Infinity War. This is like Fast and Furious Endgame, okay? Because the entire crew dies, supposedly. That's the thing in my spoiler review where I was saying, no, I don't buy it. For one bit, I don't buy it. So what ends up happening is that Jacob sacrifices himself so that Dom can get to his son and get his son back from Dante. He blows up his car to prevent this army, essentially, that Dante has hired to kill the Torettos. And he just blows up his car. And I'm like, you know what? That's not the last we've seen of John Cena, because the track record for people coming back from the dead is very high in this series, which makes me believe they're superheroes. So I totally do not believe Jacob is dead until the final installments happens and he doesn't pop up. If he doesn't pop up in 12 or 11 or whichever one's the final installments, because who knows at this point, then he's dead. But until then, he's not dead to me. Nor are Roman, Tej, Han, or Ramsey, because they're going to help Toretto at the end, and they're in this spy airplane, but then the agency that Mr. Nobody works for, the new head of it, Ames, played by Alan Richardson, Smallville's very own Aquaman, he's actually a traitor. He works for Dante. He was there with Dante in the events of the 5th one, apparently, and so they've been best buds this whole time, so he betrays everybody, and he blows up the spy plane that Roman, Tej, Ramsey, and Han are on. And so now apparently they're dead. And then Toretto has to drive down a fucking dam that's exploding. And the dam blows up around him, and he and his son are dead. So everybody's dead except for Mia and Letty. And I'll talk about Letty in a minute. So, yeah, no, I'm not buying it. If there's 2 more of these things, they're not dead. They're not fucking dead. Because what's the track record with characters who die in Fast and Furious? They come back somehow. It's some crazy elaborate plan that they explain in later installments, and you're just like, of course, because Christ, we all thought Letty was dead when she died in Fast and Furious 4, and then she comes back in Fast and Furious 6 and has amnesia and is working for Gina Carano and doesn't know who Dom is. So I was like, okay, so she's back. And then Han dies in Tokyo Drift. and then that's retcon so that Shaw kills him in the post-credits scene of Fast and Furious 6 that take place during the events of Tokyo Drift, because apparently 4, 5, and 6, up until the mid-credit scene of 6, take place before Tokyo Drift. So Shaw kills Han, but apparently in 9, Han's alive. And he came up with this elaborate plan with Mr. Nobody as to how he survived. And then we see Giselle, who's played by Gal Gadot, she died in Fast and Furious 6. She sacrificed herself. And then what do you know? Lo and behold, at the end of this movie, Gal Gadot pops up for a cameo. Nobody in this series is dead. So I'm not buying it. Nobody's dead. They're all alive. They're all superheroes. Fucking Roman was questioning whether they were all superheroes or if they were just lucky in the last installment. And the answer is pretty clear. They're goddamn superheroes. There's no way these people can survive any of this shit. They'd be fucking pancakes. It's insane. So no, they're not dead. And I'm just kind of tired at this point of Fast and Furious retconning everything. It's so much to keep up with, and it's just they're trying way too hard to make every movie and every character relevant. And why is everybody related to everybody? Like, Brie Larson's in this movie. Cool, I'm glad. Like, hey, welcome to the Fast and Furious family. And it's like, no, she's Mr. Nobody's daughter. And I'm like, does everybody have to be related to everybody, though? And with the track record of these movies, too, we also know that they have a habit of making the villains part of the family. And that's very much hinted at with Cypher, which I always thought was going to happen anyway. I always figured that she would kind of be like that Hobbs-ish type character where she has a vendetta against Toretto and his crew, and then she has to actually, kind of help them, even though she still resents him and she doesn't really want to help him. She's kind of forced to. That's exactly what happens in this movie, because Dante takes everything from her. She's the one who warns Letty and Toretto about Dante. She's like, yeah, your enemy is my enemy. So we got common ground here. It was strange to me, and I think it's because maybe it's a 3-part finale, but the fact that, Michelle Rodriguez is in the movie a lot, but they didn't have Letty do anything. She's just in a Blackgate prison with Cypher, and they escape. Like, it's weird because they were giving out magnets of Letty at AMC today of like her poster, and after you watch the movie, it's like, well, Letty's not even in a car this movie. She drives a motorcycle, but for most of the movie, she's in prison. That's interesting. I wonder if that was on purpose, and I'm thinking it is, because there are so many converging plot lines in this movie. They're setting up the future Fast and Furious movie or movies to end this entire saga, that they're just trying to make everything come to a head as quick as possible and set everything up as quick as possible. So I feel like that was the plan from the beginning, and she's the one who's probably going to come back and somehow save Dom, or find out that Dante tried to kill him, or she's going to try and get revenge on Dante if Toretto's actually dead. I don't believe it again. Or if Roman, Tej, the rest of the crew are all dead. I don't believe that either. If Jacob's dead, because he's not. I do think pairing her with Cypher in this maximum security prison was a smart idea. I think Charlize Theron and Michelle Rodriguez bounce off of each other really well, and I liked their dynamic in this prison, even though Letty didn't really get all that much to do in this movie, and that's probably by design. But we're not done talking about the cameos. As I said before, Dante's not out for revenge on Toretto because he killed his father. No, Hobbs is the one that killed his father. So lo and behold, Dwayne Johnson shows up in the mid-credit scene. This man vowed he would never be in a Fast and Furious movie ever again. Yet here we are. The hierarchy of the family is about to change because Hobbs is back for the end game. Essentially what I saw was like, this guy's the Nick Fury of everything. So he's back, of course. It's obvious that, Dwayne Johnson weaseled his way into this movie because he was like, Black Adam kind of failed and I'm no longer like the big guy at DC. So I need something to fall back on. Jungle Cruise 2's not really coming to fruition right now. Nobody really liked me as Black Adam anyways. So, you know what, Vin? I'm sorry about our previous feud. Let me back in the series, and Vin Diesel was probably like, "You don't turn your back on family." So Hobbs is back. I'll tell you what, if we get more scenes with him and Jason Statham just kicking ass, it's gonna be awesome. I mean, Jason Statham is in this movie to do absolutely nothing. He just be the coolest thing he does is he beats up a guy in a body bag, and he's like, "Yeah, well, they're gonna go because they're after me too, after everybody." Yeah, Shaw's barely in the movie, and it's kind of sad. That's really all I want to talk about with Fast and Furious 10 because there's not much to talk about. It's just all the fake out deaths and the cliffhangers. I'm just not buying it. Nobody's dead. I'm sorry. They're like Mia's gonna come back somehow and save the day with Letty, and somehow Cypher's gonna be there, and the final villain is gonna be Jason Momoa as Dante, just eating up scenery like he did in this movie. Is it sad that I wanted Jason Momoa to win in this movie? And I'm happy that he's won for the first half of the story. I mean, I don't know. For all I know, they could be dead, but until I see it with my own eyes, I know the track record with this series. Nobody's dead because they're superhumans. If that is the case, I mean, sucks because Roman, I love Roman and Tej. They're my two favorite Fast and Furious characters. If they are dead, well, the funeral pyre begins here. If they're not, I'm not surprised. And plus, too, like, they're on a jet with Han. Would they kill Han twice? I really don't think so. Oh yeah, I forgot to talk about what's her name? Isabel. Daniela Melchior's character, Ratcatcher 2 from the Suicide Squad. She's the sister of Elsa Pataky's character. What was her name? Elena? So she's Brian's aunt. uh yeah, again, we're just making everybody related to everybody, but I mean, in hindsight, that does make sense. If you're gonna make her a character, yeah, sure, yeah, I get it. Yeah, so that's my spoiler review for Fast and Furious 10. If you have seen it, what was your favorite part of Fast and Furious 10? Was it Momoa chewing up the scenery? I know it was. Him painting those dead corpses' toenails and talking to them like they were alive. That was pretty sick and demented, but it was funny. So let me know what your favorite part of Fast and Furious 10 was. I'll leave my link to my website in the description below as well. You guys are the best. Thank you for watching. My name is Alex Madden, and I will see you at the movies somewhere.